what do channel people need to do to make incentive programs more impactful?
Mhm.
How what kind of data technology can help? And I'd love your thoughts on how do you see that evolving as AI starts to become more embedded in programs and platforms?
Yeah, thanks, Margaret. Yeah, let me start because we've already kind of touched on some of the previous conversations, but just on the kind of data set and what we've seen people having to do from a data perspective, and I think this can be kind of broken down into different sections. Obviously, fundamentally, you need your partner data set, right? You need to know who your partners are, their tiers, their specializations, their verticals, what geos they play in, because again, the folks have alluded to it. You don't want to treat all your partners the same, right? Because, the people putting that extra effort in expect to be rewarded differently. So number one, you need your data set to be able to segment and, target your incentives, be they spiffs or rebates at, specific subsets of your partner base. So again, I think that partner data is fundamental. You then also need to look at, so that's your kind of foundational, your partners, who they are, what they can do, where they are, who do I want to go after from an incentive or a spiff or rebate perspective. Then what you need to start layering in is like, what's their engagement like? What's their portal usage, content consumption? Are they involved from a digital perspective? What are they like from an email, from a webinar perspective? So first off, who they are. Secondly, how engaged are they? And then thirdly, the next layer on top would be the performance data. And I think Brian alluded to that as well. And again, sometimes it's easy to get this performance data, maybe other times it's not. But you need to start looking at the kind of standard stuff like the dealer edges, the pipeline progression, kind of win-loss rates, obviously the historical sales performance, and more importantly as well, what their conversion ratios have been like in the past. So the foundational partner data, how engaged are they? What are they? What's the performance like? Those kind of factors will kind of give you the internal view of, from a data perspective of, and start your mind thinking about maybe how you're going to frame your incentive. But then on top of that as well, you really need to start layering in, kind of the market side of the house, the market and customer side of the house. What is your typical end customer buying behavior? What's their usage patterns? What are the trends either by, vertical or by region? And use that as well as an influencer when you're starting to design or starting to roll out your incentive program. So those four elements, I think, are kind of what you need to consider when you're coming up with your incentive program. Some of the things that we've seen, and we've already touched on it, again, you need to ensure that you've kind of identified the behavior that you're looking to drive within the target audience. So clearly identify that behavior. That behavior does have to align with your overall kind of business goals. One of the challenges we've seen, partners do not want to have to come in and drill through 3 pages of a document to understand a reward program. They want something that's easy to understand. To the point you made, Margaret, first and foremost, they need to be able to see that this exists, right? So it needs to be clearly visible, front and center to the partner that, hey, there's a potential reward available to you here. They want to be able to quickly get into that, easily understand it. If you make something overly complicated, the partner will walk away and not spend the time or effort to get into the weeds on it. When you're looking at this as well as part of all of this decision-making process, you need to set realistic targets as well. If you put a program in place that they feel there's no chance we're going to achieve this, then you're not going to get any traction and you're not going to drive the behavior. The reverse of that is, or the opposite of that is, don't put a reward out there that's not going to excite them. Okay, if you come out with something that's way too low, it's not going to drive what you're looking to drive either. So again, keep it easy to understand, set realistic goals, and have it at a value, whatever that is, either a dollar or a non-monetary value. Make sure it's enough to excite the partner. Okay. And again, fundamentally make sure it's visible to the partner. So when you stand up your incentive program or your rebate, then the next piece is obviously you're going to have a period of time where that program is in play. And as I mentioned earlier, the next kind of set of data that you can start to mine is, well, how did my past programs perform? What did we get back from those past programs? Who used them? What kind of ROI did we actually see as a result? Sorry, hit the mute button by accident. You should be able to start to tie kind of ROI back into your reward program. So what additional ROI did we see come back as a result of a program being stood up? One of the other key things, I suppose, that we've seen from the platform side of the house is, again, you stand up your incentive program, you're driving a particular behavior. The speed with which you reward that behavior is fundamental as well. Okay. The quicker you reward the desired behavior, the more that resonates with your partner base. If you put up an incentive program, they do the behavior, and 6 months down the line, they're getting their payment. That's just going to wash over them. They'll probably even have forgot what they're actually getting the payment for. So it's kind of fundamental that you have a timely reward mechanism or payment mechanism, that they can immediately associate the reward with the behavior that they've just done, because again, that is more likely going to drive more and more of that particular behavior. So from the data side, they're kind of what I would call out the partner data itself, the engagement metrics, the partner performance metrics, the market and customer side of the house, but then utilizing your own experiences with the SPIF programs or rebate or incentive programs you've stood up to refine and tailor your ongoing programs to be more influential. From an automation and tech perspective, things that I think are fundamental, the ability to segment, to be able to go after specific audiences, putting it front and center, again, easy to access, easy to understand, not just for the partner side of the house, but also for the internal account managers. They need to be able to get in and very quickly see, hey, my set of partners, how close are they to maybe getting to a rebate? Do I need to put a push on to get them over the line? They need that visibility as well to be able to, engage with the partners and engage with them accurately. And again, ensure that they're doing the behavior that you would want them to do. Also from the tech side, when you're standing up an incentive or rebate program, there is obviously an allocated budget, right? So you're looking for some degree of control over that budget. You don't want to put a program out there and within, if it's a very successful program, within the first few weeks, you're over budget and you have no control over the budget. And again, from the tech perspective, that's something that can be enforced through the platform, is the budgetary control element. And I've already touched on the kind of timely reward, I think, is fundamental. Moving on to the AI side of the house, kind of as I've described there's lots of data sets, right, that you can use to help you in the design of your incentive or your rebate or your spiff. And I think this is where AI is going to actually start to play a pretty significant role. I think, from the AI side of the house, I think where this will be able to help is with the identification of who to go after, right? I think we're going to see more and more of AI being able to predict or kind of propose which partners you should go after. And again, that would be based on the performance data and the engagement data from your partner data set, right? So I think AI will be able to take that, crunch it, and come back and say, hey, I think these are the guys that you should go after. I think not alone will it be able to tell you which partners to go after, but I think it'll also come back and tell you, based on the data sets. And again, back to data being somewhat fundamental here. But also tell you, back to kind of Ali's point, what's the best mix of incentive, right? So who to go after, but also what's the best mix of incentive? Is it a spiff? Is it a rebate? Is it an MDF program? What's the best thing to go with across your existing partner base? So who to go after, what to go after them with. I think from just the interaction perspective, I think AI will bring to the table the ability for people to come on platform and ask very simple questions. Am I close to any particular incentives currently? What incentives am I eligible for? What do I need to do to get over the line with an incentive? And again, I think the AI piece will feed into that kind of, agentic kind of capability, where it'll become a much easier process for partners to understand the spiffs or the rebates, and also make it easier for them and guide them towards how to even go ahead and claim the relevant ones. And then the last piece, I think, from an AI perspective, where it'll start to play a big role is, kind of compliance, right? People submit claims, people submit requests. As we're all aware, there's some very sharp people out there that can very quickly understand incentives and spiffs and, to a certain degree, abuse that program. So I think that's another area AI will play a big role in is, basically kind of overuse patterns or suspicious claims that come in, along with the assistance from the point of view of, again, sometimes when it comes to claims, there's kind of proofs of performance. There might be invoices, there might be elements that have to be added as part of the claim process. And I think from an AI perspective, that's another area that I think AI will play a role insofar as the validation of those particular supporting documents. I think that's an area that it'll help to reduce the load on the internal folks who have responsibility for approving any of these claims that come in, and obviously free them up to work on more strategic value add activities. So I think those three areas, I think kind of the real-time insights and recommendations, who to go after, what to go after them with, that better and more intuitive kind of experience for the partner from the point of view of the agentic help around the incentive side of the house. And then the compliance element as well, and the ability to be able to kind of run an AI fraud detection capability on your program. So I think, Margaret, hopefully that kind of covers the data, the tech, and the AI impact as I see it going forward.
No, brilliant. Thanks so much, Sean. Ali, Brian, anything to add to that? I think it was pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just amplify what Sean was mentioning about the technology and the platform. I mean, that has been a game changer for us. And I mean, transparently, we do leverage Channel Scaler to support us with our incentive programs. And that has just been a night and day difference for us, both in monitoring program performance. I saw a couple questions in the chat about how do we measure AI or how do we measure ROI? And a lot of that is supported by the reporting and functionalities that we have through the platform. I think so much of the channel business ends up getting run on spreadsheets, and moving an incentive program to something that requires claims and approvals and all of that, it just helps support that ROI conversation when you have to go back and ask for more budget for a successful incentive program or explain why something wasn't working. So I would just echo what Sean had mentioned about the importance of the technology supporting your program.
Yeah, and just one other thing to add, I'm not going to touch upon anything else that was said already, but the technology allowing the audit conversation that you need to have internally once or twice a year, depending on your own organizations, the fact that you can essentially mimic the reporting or mimic what the filters or what the reporting structure that you have, to be able to hand it to your auditors and say, hey, this is exactly what we paid out. This is exactly why we paid it out. This is exactly who we paid it out to. And if there's any exceptions, this is why there was an exception that was made. And so having all of that dialed in actually makes a generally pretty painful part of the process quite a lot easier.